This video is about the problems in the agricultural industry. One of the first issues deals with mechanization. Less than 100 years ago, 80% of Canadians worked on farms, but today only about 3% of Canadians are farmers. That is an incredible rural-urban shift that has occurred, but it also means that despite the fact that we have almost as many acres under cultivation, we have far, far fewer people actually doing the work. Each individual farm is now several hundred or several thousand acres in size, which again is a complete shift from 100 years ago when the standard homestead was a half a section. So today that means that there are only a few people farming a very large amount of land. And the only way to do this is through mechanization, and that means machines do the work that people used to do. So as machines become more efficient, even more farm jobs are lost. So while we need the mechanization because we have fewer people doing the work, as the machines get better, they are kind of pushing the people that were there out as well. So it's a bit of a problem and solution all in one. Now, lately, however, on some small farms, there's been a movement away from machines and back to working the land by hand or with animals. I've got a video that I'd like you to watch. I'm not sure if the link here is going to be workable, but I will put the link in the Edsby Journal so that you can access it. What I'd like you to do is pause now, watch the video, and answer the following questions. So please pause, watch the video, and answer the questions. And now that you're back, let's take a look at what the video said about working with animals. I asked what the psychological benefit to working with horses on the farms was. And according to the video, the man said it was deeply satisfying and a lot more fun than just driving a tractor. What jobs could the horses do on the farm? Well, they can mow, rake, and bale the hay. They could plow and cultivate a market garden. They can skid the firewood. Skidding is to drag the firewood or drag the log out of the forested area. And they can plow snow in the driveway. What are the environmental benefits to using horses on the farm? Well, the manure can be used as fertilizer. So that's free. It reduces the amount of fossil fuels used. Very good for the environment overall. And because their hooves are much smaller than a tractor tire, they don't compact the soil as much. What other animals can be used instead of horses? Well, you could use mules or oxen. Now, I did know a guy once who used mules, and you have to have a very particular personality to work with mules. I've never known anybody who worked with oxen, so I don't know about that one. Another problem is that the average age of the farmers is getting older. So right now, the average age of a farmer in Canada is 54. Now, young people, for the most part, do not want to become farmers. And it's not because they don't like farming, and it's not because they're lazy. It's because that it is incredibly hard work with very often very little return and no income stability. So especially in today's markets, it is really tough to start a family and try to have a business running when you have no stability. So a lot of young people are very reluctant to do this. But that means that when the older farmers retire, who's going to take over? The startup costs is another issue. So if you want to buy a farm as opposed to inheriting one, startup costs are astronomical. The average cost of farmland in Manitoba in 2016 was $700 an acre. And of course, that's an average. The closer you are to an urban area, the higher that cost is going to be. The average farm size in Manitoba is 891 acres. That's in 2001. So the purchase price would average at $623,700. That's just the land. On top of the land, you need machinery. You know, those big combines and the tractors and a seeder and a disker and everything else. A good piece of machinery is going to run you upwards of $100,000 to $250,000. If you have any livestock at all, you have to have veterinarian care, and veterinarians are expensive. You have to pay for the seed, and some of the seed has been designed so that it does not replicate itself. In other words, you cannot harvest seed for replanting the following year. Instead, you have to go back to the company and purchase more seed. You have to buy herbicides and pesticides so that your seeds have the best chance of creating the highest yield. And of course, you'd also probably need to buy fertilizer as well. Another problem is erosion and soil damage. So even if you're using good farming techniques, and remember we had that whole piece that we did on farming techniques, erosion and soil damage can still be a problem. And it's a problem because we have high winds. Lately, we have had incredibly high winds frequently in the southern Manitoba area. And we'll have wind gusts up to, well, between 60 and 80 kilometers an hour. And that's really, really hard on the soil. We have floods. We didn't have one this year, but we have had many, many floods over the years. And then very often they're followed by droughts. We had a drought just last year. If you use too much chemical, whether it is the herbicide, the pesticide, or the fertilizer, you can end up with chemical burns. And of course, you can compact the soil as a result of having your farm equipment on there. And of course, if your soil is too compacted, there's not enough oxygen in there, that means that nothing's going to grow. And finally, there's urbanization. Now, urbanization is a much more recent problem. Most of the cities in Canada began as farming communities. As the communities grew and became more successful, more businesses, industries, homes, etc. were added. All of these places needed space to build, so the farms closest to the town were bought and built on. And this continued to happen, causing what we today refer to as urban sprawl. Today, people often want to live just outside the city for a variety of reasons. The taxes might be cheaper, you get more land for less money, there's a slower, more natural lifestyle. But this desire to live close to but not in the city drives up the value of the land. So it is more economical for a farmer to sell his or her land than it is to farm it. And instead of having food production, you have large yards. If you want to see examples of this happening here in Winnipeg, take a drive towards the perimeter. Drive west on the perimeter around Brady, and you will see all of the infill that's being done there. If you go down McGillivray towards the perimeter, you'll see that farmland is coming out of cultivation and is being turned into industrial area. If you go down Wilkes in Charleswood, again towards the perimeter, area that only a couple of years ago had been farmed, are now under, well, they're being built on, and huge development areas are being put in there. So we are losing food production in favor of housing. Okay, so that's the end of that particular one. We've had a look at the problems in the agricultural industry. Please make sure that you have completed your notes, that you watched the video, and that you answered the questions as you went along. All right, we're done. Thank you. Bye-bye.